I sold my Fujifilm X-S10, and today I'm gonna talk you through why I did it, what made me decide to sell the Fujifilm X-S10, and then giving you a couple of reasons or just talking you through my thought process of what happened over the last couple of months that I said, okay, I'm gonna sell the X-S10, but first let's enjoy a coffee and then we're coming down to the point and talk it through. So the X-S10 is a fantastic camera, guys, so don't get me wrong, and everything what I'm gonna say in this video is of course just my personal opinion, how I got on with the Fujifilm X-S10, what made me switch or what made me sell this camera body. At the end of the day, I didn't use the Fujifilm X-S10 as much as I thought I would. I bought a couple of months back the Fujifilm X-T4 to see if the layout from an X-T4 fits my needs or my type of shooting better than a layout from an X-S10. And it did, and this probably was the main reason why I sold the X-S10. But before we diving too far into it, let's go over a few points from an X-S10 which I really liked. First of all, the big hand grip was absolutely amazing for my needs. I loved shooting with the X-S10 in a way of having the steep hand grip, and it was very comfortable to work with it. So definitely a very big plus point for the X-S10 if you're looking for a deeper grip than the X-T3 got or the X-T4 got. Then on the other hand side, I did miss a dual card slot. Being capable of shooting RAW and JPEG to two different cards was just something I did appreciate from an X-T3 and X-T4. But also the weather resistant body sometimes. Yes, I do use non-weather resistant lenses, but having a weather resistant body is definitely handy. Like my Fujifilm 50-140 is weather resistant, my X-T3 or X-T4 is weather resistant, so having the combination of both lens and body are weather resistant is definitely a benefit for myself. But then also the battery life, guys. If you compare the new battery to the old battery, it was just really nice to have a bigger battery in your camera and not need to worry every hour to swap your battery around. Do you got enough batteries charged? Do you got enough batteries in your backpack? Having a bigger battery was definitely something I really enjoyed as well. Swapping a battery twice in a full day instead of 3, 4 or 5 times. I appreciate the X-S10 just cost £1,000 and used to use the old batteries, which of course is a price point, but having a bigger battery is definitely nice and handy. Also the 8-bit internal recording. I'm 100% sure and looking positive into the future, if you want to say it like this, that the X-S10 will get a firmware update at some point and will be capable of shooting 10-bit internally as well. They brought it to the X-T3 and gave X-T3 the capability of shooting 10-bit internally, 60 frames per second in 4K. So why shouldn't the X-S10 get it at some point as well? This probably will happen when the XH2 comes out or the X-S10 is a bit longer on the market. However, shooting with the X-T3 in 10-bit and shooting with the X-S10 in 8-bit, I did prefer to have two cameras with the same bitrate setup, and I did prefer the 10-bit. Right now, if I'm out and about and I shoot a lot alone and I got a little peek of the sun, I'm able to pull more details out of a footage than in the 8-bit. Elsewise, I would have coped or could have worked around with the 8-bit footage with no problem at all. And I like to believe that a lot of people will be more than happy with the 8-bit footage they get out of the X-S10. But having the two cameras more or less set up the same way, the X-T3 I use for photography, the X-T4 mainly for filming. Like as an example, next week I'm gonna shoot a little wedding, and having two cameras set up exactly the same way will just benefit my way how I can work next week. I crop one camera, I crop the other one, and I know exactly both cameras set up exactly the same, and it will make my workflow just easier. One thing I got asked a lot of times about the X-S10, and this is about the SD card slot. It uses a UHS-1 card, and how the transfer speed is when you transfer the footage from an SD card down to your laptop. So I'm using a MacBook Pro and a dongle to transfer my files onto the Mac, and then usually I transfer it further to an external hard drive and then to another hard drive for a second backup. So usually I say if you had around like 20 gig worth of footage, it took me around like 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes to transfer 20 gigabyte worth of footage from an X-S10 down to an external hard drive. So overall the image quality was exactly the same from an X-S10 like from an X-T3 or X-T4. So there's no like picking around and saying this camera is better or this camera is better. All three cameras running pretty much on the same picture profile or on the same sensor. So there was no pixel peeping really to say this camera is a bit better, this camera is worse or whatsoever. So the image quality was absolutely fantastic from an X-S10. However, it really just comes down to those few points I mentioned, which I've been missing or which I preferred how I work with my camera. And this is having those dials on top or the focus button in front of your camera. You didn't need to go in a Q menu, you didn't need to program buttons, you just switched it and you bumped up your ISO, you turned down your ISO, you could change your shutter speed on the fly or you changed your autofocus. So guys, with that said, like this is really just a few points and everything is my personal opinion and it really just comes down to how I like to shoot. And the X-T3 will be still my main camera for photography and the X-T4 will be the main camera for filming, vlogging or any film related content. And yeah guys, that's really it. That's a few points why I probably sold the X-S10. I didn't touch the X-S10 anymore or as often as I thought I would after buying the Fujifilm X-T4. I do love shooting with the X-S10. Right now in the street, you're having this big hand grip, you can dangle the camera on your hand. It was nice, comfy to use, it was the right size, it was the right weight, and I'm sure a lot of people will be more than happy shooting with the Fujifilm X-S10. But for my personal way how I work, I do prefer the layout from an X-T3 and X-T4, and this is what it comes down to. A few things I just be missing. Of course, perhaps it's a bit of nitpicking in certain ways, but then everyone got their own personal opinion, guys. So with that said, let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you prefer the XT series over the XS series? Or do you rather have the XS over the XT series? So guys, with that said, let me know what's going on. Let me know what you think. What's your likes, what's your dislikes about each camera if you got one. And with that said guys, I'm gonna see you my friend very soon in another video. Cheers guys.